Reed continues looking at life in prison for the January 2022 death of her boyfriend. Boston police officer John O'Keefe found dead in a snowbank outside the house of fellow officer Brian Albert. So how long does it take to die in a snowbank? Big question. And we have a forensics examiner on the stand, Jessica Hyde, helping answer that because there were texts suggesting there were curiosity about that. But who was curious? Was it Karen Reed? Was it Jennifer McCabe? Let's get back into the courtroom. A little bit more direct here. There was a suggestion through this direct that maybe they're anticipating what the cross expert might have to say on this subject. So this is critical stuff. Let's get in for more. Again, this is the forensics expert for the prosecution. Here we go.
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth seeks to introduce and admit as the next three exhibits, Table 1, Table 2, and Figure 1 from Ms. Hyde's report.
Okay. There's no objection, Mr.
There is
Kennedy.
no objection, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Just Table 1, Table 2. I think the order I gave. Thank you. And thank you, Your Honor, and thank you very much, ma'am. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Giannetti?
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hyde.
Good afternoon, sir.
Ms. Hyde, you just spent maybe 45 minutes to an hour, whatever the time period was, explaining to these jurors what is really a complex set of facts that led you to conclude that the 2:27 a.m. timestamp on that Google search was triggered by the closing of a tab. Did I essentially sum that up correctly?
Essentially, except it's not a 2:27 a.m. timestamp on a Google search. It's a 2:27 a.m. timestamp on a tab.
Fair enough. Thank you. And in the context or in the course of your explanation, you discussed WAL files,
That is correct.
SQLite database,
Yes.
plist database,
Yes.
knowledge C database.
Yeah. plist is not a database. Just it's a structure. So just a small correction.
Thank you for the correction. Opening tabs and closing tabs, correct?
Yes.
And other issues related to your analysis of the phone extraction, correct?
Would you call them issues? Or
Well, maybe that's a bad word to use. Other elements.
elements? Fair enough. Yes. Yes.
I'm really not trying to trick you. I know I wouldn't be able to. Would you agree with me that another simple explanation for that 2:27 a.m. timestamp was that the user of that iPhone conducted that search at or before 2:27 a.m.?
Can you rephrase, please?
I'm going to phrase it the same way and hope I can
Repeat it. Repeat it, please.
Thank you. Would you agree with me that another simple explanation for that 2:27 a.m. timestamp was that the user of that iPhone conducted that search at or before 2:27 a.m. on January 29th of 2022?
That timestamp is not indicative of a time of search. So the question is difficult to answer because I can't say that that timestamp tells me anything about the time of search.
Okay. So as I take your answer, you're not denying that the timestamp and whatever you get from that timestamp doesn't rule out that the Google search was done at or before 2:27 a.m., correct?
If I'm understanding your question, there was a double negative, so I just want to clarify. The question is if the timestamp could exist because of a search happening at that time?
No.
Okay.
What I'm saying is your analysis of the phone does not rule out that the user of that phone performed that Google search at or before 2:27 a.m.
There is no indication of a Google search at or before 2:27 a.m.
But again, I'm getting to whether you can rule that out, ma'am. That's really the crux of my question. Can you rule out that the user of that phone conducted that search at or before 2:27 a.m. on January 29th?
there is a very unlikely possibility based on the fact that there is no evidence that the search occurred before that time. That's just like saying that the user searched for pandas at 2:27 a.m. Could you rule that out? I can't rule out something that doesn't exist.
All right. Well, you would agree with me that with regard to your analysis of this phone extraction, you were given very specific instructions in terms of what to look at, correct?
Correct. I had a very limited scope in this analysis.
And who was it that gave you that limited scope?
That scope was relayed to me by Detective Tully.
Oh. And Detective Tully instructed you specifically to only look at the part of the phone extraction that dealt with the Safari search history.
Safari search history specific to January 29th, 2022. That is correct.
And he instructed you not to look at anything else on the phone, correct?
I looked at related artifacts such as what was being done at that time, the phone being on, the phone being used, but not anything else outside of that, correct?
And you were not instructed, for instance, to look at other user activity on the phone, including examining call logs on the phone, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree with me that if you were allowed or instructed to examine the call logs, that could reveal deletion of calls that morning, correct?
Of course. Well,
Okay, the objection is sustained.
Thank you.
Any follow-up, Mr. Lally?
No, Your Honor, no redirect.
Ms. Hyde, you are.
Okay, I think she almost looked disappointed that they're done. A little less cheerful, maybe a little defensive, but all in all, handled that cross-examination pretty well. Sonny Slaughter is here, Katherine Lizardo. So, Katherine, this tells me, this short cross-examination, which was pretty tame, he hit a couple of points, that he's just teeing up what will be the defense expert who's going to shred the theories that we've heard from this expert. Would you agree with that?
I agree. And the cross had to be short, and I'm glad it's short because this expert has so much knowledge that if you try to know more than she does, then you're going to be screwed, as you can see, and that's a legal term. As you can see, when he was trying to ask her a question, she was telling him, your question is unintelligible, basically, and I can't rule out something that does not exist because you're asking something that doesn't exist. It's kind of like when there was a Senate hearing one time and someone was asking, can you connect the Wi-Fi in a different way, or does the Wi-Fi exist? Like, people don't know how this technology works in layman's term, so we asked the wrong question, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Sonny, twice at least, she basically re-asked herself the question, fixing it for the cross-examining attorney there. I don't know, sometimes to a jury that sounds, is off-putting because you think you're such a smarty pants. What do you think?
I think that she was doing what she needed to do because he, as Katherine said, the question was not eligible for what he was trying to get at. That's why the cross was so short. He didn't know, he could not challenge this particular expert. She knows what she knows. She is absolutely good at it. And as I said to you all behind the scenes, they were kind of disinterested in this because it doesn't fit their narrative. And that is what was happening here. I don't know if the jury was off-put by it as much as they understood from listening to everything that she said prior. She's on her game. She knows it. And she had the information. He was not prepared. He was not prepared.
I think he could have better attacked maybe the basis for her opinions, because that's really the way you get to an expert, and he really kind of danced around it. There was one interesting point she talked about, and I had to check it out here. Universal time constant. Now we know what that is. I checked this out for you. It refers to the time it takes to charge a capacitor to 63.2% of its maximum voltage, or to discharge the capacitor to 36.8% of its maximum voltage. So that's one of the factors that she was dealing with. So I have a headache.
Now.
Yes, we're gonna take a break here. We're gonna come back. New witness getting ready to queue up there in the case against Karen Reed. We'll be right back.